Chosen one, I am speaking directly to you now. Not to everyone, not to those listening casually, not to those who stumbled here by accident. This is for you, and something in your spirit already knows it. Before your mind tries to question why these words feel different, understand this clearly and without doubt. This is a message from God, and it has reached you in perfect divine alignment. Not early, not late. Exactly when your soul was ready to receive it. You are not imagining this moment. You were called here. Your presence confirms that a deeper spiritual awakening is already unfolding within you, whether you fully understand it yet or not. There is a reason these words landed in your awareness. There is a reason your attention stayed. There is a reason your heart felt a subtle recognition before your logic could interfere. That recognition is ancient. It is familiar. It is the echo of your divine calling stirring again. You are not part of the crowd. You never were. You are one of the chosen ones, and your path has never followed ordinary patterns. You have walked through seasons that felt confusing, isolating, and unfair, not because you were forgotten, but because you were being refined. This message is not a trend, and it is not a theory designed to excite or distract you. What you are hearing now is revelation. The 144,000 financial shift is not hype. It is a divinely orchestrated realignment already in motion, governed by spiritual law, not human opinion. It is a movement of kingdom wealth being repositioned into the hands of those who have been prepared to carry it without corruption. If you have known delay, misunderstanding, and pressure, it is because you were being shaped to steward something larger than personal comfort. Many of you have felt like you were doing everything right, yet nothing moved. You prayed, you grew, you healed, you obeyed, and still the doors stayed closed. That was not punishment, that was protection. God does not release weight into unprepared hands. The delay was not denial, it was alignment. You were being trained internally for an external assignment that would require discernment, restraint, and spiritual authority. That training has been intense, because the calling is real. I speak to you as someone who has watched cycles rise and fall, who understands spiritual law beyond surface language, and who has seen what happens when wealth arrives before wisdom. I am not here to flatter you. I am here to remind you of the truth you have almost remembered many times. Kingdom wealth is not about status or excess. It is purposeful, clean, and assigned. It moves where integrity lives. It remains where obedience is honored, and it withdraws from places where ego replaces alignment. The 144,000 financial shift is happening quietly, beneath headlines, and outside the awareness of those chasing quick gain. It is being activated through divine positioning, not ambition. You are feeling it as restlessness, clarity, separation, and an unexplainable knowing that your life is about to change in substance, not just appearance. That knowing is not imagination, it is confirmation. God always speaks to the spirit before the environment responds. If you feel aligned with what is being spoken, acknowledge it now by commenting 777, not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, but as an act of recognition. Alignment responds to recognition. When you name what your spirit already knows, you strengthen the channel through which clarity flows. Understand this as well, there is a war happening that most people never see. It is not fought with weapons, but with distraction, discouragement, and delay. Those with light are always targeted first, because their presence disrupts systems built on imbalance. If your life has felt like resistance followed you wherever you went, it is because your light is necessary. Darkness does not argue with what is irrelevant. It tries to exhaust what is dangerous to it. Your spiritual awakening did not begin recently. It began the moment you realized you could not live asleep anymore. Every loss, every pause, every redirection sharpened your discernment. You were learning how to hear without noise, how to trust without evidence, and how to stand without applause. These are not common traits. They are marks of the chosen one. This message from God is here to bring clarity, not pressure, confirmation, not urgency, peace, not fear. You do not need to chase what is being assigned. You only need to remain aligned. The shift does not require effort from the ego. It requires surrender from the spirit. Everything you have endured has already qualified you. Circle back to the beginning now and hear it again. You were not imagining this pull. You were called. This moment was arranged. The war is real, but so is your authority. Your light is not optional. It is necessary. And what is coming into your life will match the depth of the preparation you survived. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, without doubt, you were called. Who the chosen ones really are, and why they were selected. The chosen one was never selected because of perfection. That idea alone has caused many of you unnecessary doubt. You questioned yourself because you did not look like the image people associate with being chosen. But selection was never about flawlessness. It was about endurance. It was about integrity under pressure. It was about obedience when disobedience would have been easier and more rewarding in the short term. This is a message from God, and it is meant to correct the misunderstanding you have carried for too long. You were chosen because you kept going when quitting would have made sense. You were chosen because you did not lose your soul when life tried to harden you. The chosen one is defined by how they respond when no one is watching. Long before recognition, there was refinement. Long before elevation, there was isolation. This was not random. This was divine calling, unfolding quietly, without applause. Many of you learned early how to stand alone, how to self-reflect, how to question your motives, and how to sit with silence without collapsing. Those experiences were not accidents. They were assignments designed to strengthen your inner authority. If you look back honestly, you will see a pattern: opportunities delayed, relationships falling apart without clear reason, financial constriction that felt unfair compared to your effort, being misunderstood even when your intentions were pure. These are not signs of failure. They are signs of separation. Chosen ones are often removed from environments they would have outgrown too early. Isolation was protection. Delay was preparation. Confusion was training for discernment. The 144,000 is not about ego or spiritual ranking. It is symbolic of a remnant refined enough to carry responsibility without corruption. These are not people chasing attention or validation. These are individuals who have been spiritually matured through loss, restraint, and deep internal work. God does not entrust kingdom influence to those who still need external approval to feel valuable. That is why the process took so long. That is why it hurt. Spiritual awakening is not a single moment. It is a stripping process. False motivations are exposed. Old identities fall apart. You begin to see clearly what once controlled you unconsciously. This awakening removes the desire to impress and replaces it with the desire to align. That shift is critical, because wealth without discernment damages the soul. This is why it could not come earlier. This is why God's message about timing is so precise. Early access would have created spiritual harm, not freedom. Divine calling always begins internally. Before your environment changes, your perception changes. Before your income expands, your boundaries strengthen. Before recognition arrives, humility stabilizes. Divine positioning happens in the unseen long before it manifests externally. That is why it feels slow. That is why it feels invisible. But nothing about this process was wasted. You were being trained to hold influence without losing yourself. You were learning restraint when impulse could have ruled you. You were learning patience when anxiety demanded movement. You were learning discernment when emotional decisions would have felt easier. These qualities are rare. That rarity is the reason selection happens quietly. This is a message from God reminding you that your past struggles are not evidence against you. They are evidence for you. They prove that you were strong enough to endure refinement. They prove that your spirit could handle pressure without collapsing. They prove that your light did not go out even when surrounded by darkness. The war is real. It has always been real, and your light has always been necessary. You were not imagining the resistance. You were not exaggerating the weight. You were called, and now you are remembering who you are. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. The 144,000 financial shift, and how divine law controls wealth. This is a message from God, and it is important that you receive it with clarity and steadiness. You are not imagining the shift you have been sensing within yourself. You are not overthinking the restlessness, the awareness, or the quiet, knowing that something foundational is changing. You were called into awareness because your spirit is aligned with something far greater than survival or routine. The 144,000 financial shift is not a human invention, not a trend, and not a theory created to inspire false hope. It is a divinely governed transfer operating under spiritual law, not economic opinion. Divine law has always controlled wealth, even when humanity believed it was controlled by systems alone. The chosen one must understand this truth without distortion. Money is never neutral. It responds to authority, alignment, and stewardship. It moves towards structure, responsibility, and wisdom. When alignment collapses, wealth withdraws. When integrity erodes, access closes. When responsibility matures, wealth responds naturally. This is why you are witnessing the collapse of systems that once appeared untouchable. It is not coincidence. It is correction. The war you have felt pressing against your life is not only spiritual, it is structural. Old frameworks are being dismantled because they no longer serve divine order. The 144,000 is not a number meant to elevate ego or create hierarchy. It represents a spiritually awakened remnant, refined enough to hold influence without being consumed by it. These are individuals whose spiritual awakening dismantled false identities and stripped away hunger for validation. Discernment replaced impulse. Discipline replaced fear. Wealth could not be released before this internal shift, because unmanaged power corrupts purpose. God's message has always been consistent throughout history. Provision follows obedience. Increase follows integrity. Authority follows alignment. Kingdom wealth transfer does not respond to effort alone. It responds to readiness. Wealth flows where wisdom can guide it, where discipline can sustain it, and where obedience can protect it. This is why chosen one's wealth is never random or reckless. It is assigned with precision. It funds protection where others would exploit. It builds legacy where others would consume. It fuels innovation, restoration, and stability, not ego or excess. It is not meant to impress, but to establish. Many were taught that spirituality and wealth cannot coexist. That belief was never divine. It was strategic. A world without resourced integrity becomes ruled by resourced corruption. True spirituality has always included provision. Every assignment requires resources to function effectively. Influence without provision leads to frustration and burnout. That is why God's message has always included supply for those entrusted with influence. The difference has always been intention, not possession. Divine calling carries responsibility. Those called to lead must be resourced to lead with clarity and protection. That is why disciplined, awakened individuals are being positioned now, not because they demand attention, but because they have mastered restraint. Not because they chase power, but because they can hold it without losing themselves. Corrupt systems are losing access because they no longer align with divine order. Access always follows alignment. If you feel an internal pull towards structure, clarity, and purposeful creation, that is confirmation. The shift begins within before it manifests outwardly. External evidence always follows internal readiness. You are feeling the pull because your position is changing. You were not imagining the resistance you endured. You were being prepared to stand where others could not remain. This is a message from God reminding you that the war is real, but so is your authority. Your light is necessary. Your awakening matters. You were called for this moment, not as an observer, but as a carrier of alignment. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. Why financial delay was necessary for your protection. This is a message from God, and it is meant to bring relief to the part of you that has quietly wondered if you did something wrong. You did not. The financial delay you experienced was never evidence of failure. It was divine insulation. It was protection disguised as limitation. The chosen one was never meant to receive weight before their structure was strong enough to hold it. What felt like denial was actually mercy. What felt like stagnation was preparation operating beneath your awareness. Premature wealth would have attracted the wrong alliances into your life. It would have amplified voices that did not honor your divine calling. It would have surrounded you with people drawn to access, not alignment. You would have been drained emotionally, spiritually, and mentally trying to manage expectations you were never meant to carry. God understood that your purpose could not survive unmanaged exposure. So access was delayed until discernment matured. Delay refined your character in ways comfort never could. When resources are limited, motives are exposed. You learned who you were without applause. You learned how to self-govern without external validation. You learned how to say no without guilt, and how to wait without losing faith. These lessons are not optional for the chosen one. They are foundational. Without them, wealth becomes a burden instead of a tool. God's message rarely unfolds through comfort. It unfolds through silence, pressure, and waiting seasons that stretch your trust. Silence teaches you to listen inwardly. Pressure teaches you to prioritize what truly matters. Waiting seasons strip illusion and reveal truth. Spiritual awakening is not glamorous. It is uncomfortable because it matures patience, self-trust, and spiritual authority. You stop reacting and start discerning. You stop chasing and start aligning. Divine positioning often looks like being hidden. Before elevation comes invisibility. Before recognition comes obscurity. This is not punishment. It is strategy. Being hidden protects you from premature comparison, competition, and compromise. You were being preserved while others were being exposed. What looked like being left behind was actually being set apart. Emotional fatigue has been real. Disappointment has visited you more than once. There were moments when doubt whispered that maybe you misunderstood your calling. Those moments do not disqualify you. They humanize you. Every chosen one reaches a point where faith is tested not by lack of belief, but by exhaustion. That does not mean you failed. It means you stayed long enough to feel the weight. Protection sometimes looks like limitation. Sometimes it looks like doors closing without explanation. Sometimes it looks like watching others move ahead while you remain still. Stillness is not stagnation when God is involved. Stillness is alignment being completed beneath the surface. Roots grow in darkness before anything breaks through the ground. This is a message from God confirming that the delay has expired, not because time passed, but because the internal work is complete. You are not the same person you were when you first asked for more. You are steadier, clearer, less reactive, more discerning. You can now hold what once would have overwhelmed you. Circle back to the beginning and hear this clearly. You were not imagining the resistance. You were called. The war is real, but so is your authority. Your light is necessary, and it was protected on purpose. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. Divine positioning and the new relationship with money. This is a message from God, and it is meant to reset the way you understand money at the deepest level. You are not imagining the internal shift that has been happening. You are not confused. You were called into a new relationship with provision because the old one could no longer support who you are becoming. The chosen one is never meant to be controlled by money, nor to fear it, nor to worship it. Money was always meant to be a tool, not a measure of worth, not a source of identity, and not a substitute for purpose. Divine positioning begins when your identity detaches from survival. For a long time, money felt personal because survival demanded it. Lack created anxiety, uncertainty created pressure, and pressure created patterns that kept you reactive instead of intentional. But spiritual awakening dissolves survival identity. As alignment increases, fear loses its authority. You begin to see money clearly, neutrally, without emotional charge. That neutrality is power. Kingdom wealth flows best through calm hands and clear minds. The chosen one does not chase money. They steward it, they direct it, they assign it. Discipline becomes natural when worth is no longer tied to accumulation. Discernment sharpens when emotion no longer leads decisions. Neutrality allows wealth to move without distortion. This is why divine law required maturity before access. Wealth amplifies identity. If fear leads, fear multiplies. If clarity leads, clarity expands. The 144,000 financial shift is not only external, it is internal first. Emotional regulation is required. Boundaries must be honored. Stewardship must be understood. You cannot carry kingdom resources while still reacting from old wounds. That is why old survival patterns are dissolving now. You may notice that urgency is fading. Comparison is losing its grip. The need to prove yourself is weakening. These are signs of readiness. Spiritual maturity allows wealth without attachment. You no longer fear losing what you know how to manage. You no longer cling because your source feels stable. God's message has always been clear. Trust grows when identity is anchored. Attachment fades when alignment strengthens. Fear dissolves when authority is recognized. Divine calling reshapes ambition entirely. Ambition rooted in insecurity chases. Ambition rooted in alignment allows. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop over-explaining your vision. You stop negotiating your worth. And in that stillness, opportunities begin to appear naturally. Favor shows up without manipulation. Strategic relationships form without effort. Doors open without exhaustion. This is positioning completed. The chosen one no longer reacts to money emotionally. They respond intentionally. They direct resources toward purpose, protection, and legacy. They understand timing. They understand restraint. They understand when to move and when to wait. This clarity did not come overnight. It was earned through pressure, delay, and deep internal work. This is a message from God, bringing you back to the truth. You were not imagining the war. It was real, and your light is necessary. You were called to stand where clarity is required, not where chaos rules. You are no longer being trained. You are being positioned. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. The responsibility that comes with chosen one's wealth. This is a message from God, and it is one of the most sobering truths you must understand as the shift unfolds. Chosen one's wealth is not a reward for suffering. It is a responsibility entrusted to those who have proven they will not misuse it. You were not refined so you could escape the world. You were refined so you could stand within it without being corrupted by it. Wealth in the hands of the chosen one is not meant to rescue recklessly or enable dysfunction. It is meant to uplift wisely, protect strategically, and restore what has been broken without reinforcing what refuses to heal. Leadership always carries weight. Many desire influence, but few are prepared for the accountability that follows it. When resources increase, visibility increases. When visibility increases, impact multiplies. Every decision matters more. Every misalignment echoes louder. This is why the process was intense. You were being trained to lead without ego and to serve without self-erasure. That balance is rare, and it is essential. Kingdom wealth transfer is monitored spiritually, whether people believe that or not. Wealth does not simply arrive and remain automatically. It stays where wisdom stays. It flows where discernment is practiced. It withdraws where pride replaces obedience. This is not punishment. It is law. Divine systems do not function on favoritism. They function on alignment. That is why discernment in giving matters. Not everyone who asks is assigned to receive from you. Not every opportunity that shines is meant to be touched. Not every cause that pulls your heart is yours to carry. Investing wisely is part of stewardship. Building legacy intentionally is part of obedience. Legacy is not only about money, it is about structures that outlive you. It is about systems that protect others without creating dependency. It is about innovation that restores dignity rather than exploiting vulnerability. Chosen one's wealth is not loud. It is effective. It does not announce itself. It establishes stability quietly. Elevation often brings loneliness. This is rarely discussed honestly. As you rise, access narrows. Conversations change. Relatability shifts. You may notice that fewer people truly understand the weight you carry. This is not arrogance. It is reality. Spiritual awakening prepares you for this by anchoring your identity internally rather than socially. You learn to stand firm without guilt and without pride. You learn to be generous without being manipulated. You learn to lead without needing applause. Obedience sustains overflow. Not ambition, not hustle, not comparison. Obedience keeps the channel clear. When you listen, adjust, and remain teachable, provision stays aligned. When ego hardens, flow restricts. This is why humility was forged into you early. You were trained to listen before you were trusted to lead. This is a message from God, bringing everything full circle. Wealth will not change who you are. It will amplify who you already became. That is why preparation mattered. That is why delay was necessary. That is why your light was tested under pressure. The war was real, and it shaped you. Your light is necessary, and it is needed now. You were not imagining this calling. You were not mistaken. You were chosen, refined, and positioned on purpose. If this touched your soul, comment 111, Because you know it now without question. You were called. Activating your divine authority and embracing the kingdom shift. Chosen one, listen carefully, because what I am about to speak is meant to resonate at the deepest level of your spirit. This is not a general message. This is not a motivational whisper meant to inspire and fade. This is a message from God, and it has reached you in perfect divine timing. You are not imagining the stirrings within your heart. You are not questioning the calling that refuses to be silenced. You were called. You were always called. And this moment is the activation point. The 144,000 financial shift is not a concept to ponder. It is a current that is moving through you, preparing to manifest through the chosen ones who are aligned and ready to receive with wisdom, discernment, and responsibility. Your light is necessary, your voice is necessary, and your presence is required in the fullness of what is unfolding. For years, perhaps decades, you have been refined in silence. Your spiritual awakening has been deliberate and exacting, shaping your ability to distinguish between noise and divine instruction. The pressure you endured, the isolation, the delay, even the financial constriction were all forms of preparation. The war you felt, the resistance that seemed insurmountable, was never meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you. It was meant to sharpen your vision, clarify your purpose, and awaken the authority that resides within the chosen one. And now, that authority is ready to emerge fully. Activation begins internally. Divine authority is not something the world can give you. It is not a title, an account balance, or a position. It is a spiritual imprint that grows as you align with your divine calling. The moment you recognize that your worth is not in your output, your performance, or the validation of others, but in the alignment of your spirit with God's message, you step into authority. Your obedience, your discernment, and your capacity to act in integrity become the vessels through which kingdom wealth transfer flows. You begin to operate with clarity, knowing that every action, every choice, every decision is guided by divine positioning. The 144,000 financial shift is not merely about external wealth. It is about activating the internal currency of wisdom, discernment, and influence. Wealth is attracted not because you want it, but because you have cultivated the capacity to steward it. Chosen one's wealth is not meant for frivolity or ego. It is designed to protect, restore, and build. It is assigned to those who can carry responsibility without being carried away by pride. This is why so many of you were tested, refined, and prepared. The river of abundance flows to those who can channel it with precision and care, not those who simply desire it without understanding its spiritual weight. Your spiritual awakening has already equipped you to recognize opportunity when it comes. You are learning to see beyond the surface, to discern the alignment of people, places, and situations. You are no longer reacting to external circumstances. You are no longer swept away by fear, greed, or comparison. The chosen one responds. The chosen one acts. The chosen one commands internally before moving externally. That is the difference between ordinary success and the kingdom wealth transfer that is unfolding now. Your light has been polished in the shadows so that it can shine without distortion in the fullness of this moment. But to fully embrace your authority, you must release hesitation, doubt, and old conditioning. The world has taught you that power corrupts, that money is dangerous, that spiritual life requires deprivation. That is a lie. God's message has always included provision for those who are entrusted with purpose. Wealth and spiritual awakening are not opposites. They are complements. True authority allows you to manage resources without attachment, to wield influence without domination, and to build without consuming what is not yours to take. This balance is rare, but it is exactly what the chosen one has been prepared to carry. Feel this truth deeply. Divine positioning precedes external elevation. You may feel the pull, the momentum, the subtle alignment before anything in the world confirms it. That is the sign that your spiritual infrastructure is ready. Your discernment is sharp. Your patience is refined. Your obedience is active. You are standing on the precipice of a shift that is larger than personal gain. It is a movement of influence, authority, and restoration. The universe conspires for those who are prepared, and you are prepared. Chosen one, understand that activation also brings responsibility. You will be tested not to strip away your power, but to solidify it. You will face moments where the world challenges your integrity, your purpose, and your authority. These are not obstacles, they are confirmations. Every test you pass strengthens your ability to carry chosen one's wealth without distortion. Every challenge you navigate with clarity enhances your capacity to direct kingdom wealth transfer wisely. Your financial elevation, spiritual insight, and personal authority are inseparable. One cannot exist fully without the other. It is time to embrace the fullness of your divine calling. No longer partially aware, no longer hesitating, no longer questioning if you are ready. You are ready. You were called to operate at this level. The skills, wisdom, discernment, patience, and spiritual insight you have cultivated have prepared you for this activation. Nothing about your past struggles disqualifies you. In fact, they qualify you. The delays, the pressure, the resistance, all of it was calibration. All of it refined your vision. All of it aligned you with the precise flow of kingdom wealth that you are now ready to receive and direct. Activation is a conscious choice. It is the moment you fully accept that divine positioning is in motion and that your authority is not earned by striving, but recognized by alignment. When you step fully into this understanding, fear dissolves, urgency dissolves, doubt dissolves. What remains is clarity, power, and peace. You will no longer be swayed by the impatience of the world. You will no longer be drawn into comparisons or contests. You operate from the center of your calling, fully aligned, fully anchored, fully aware of the weight and the opportunity that is yours. As you embrace this activation, know that your light has never been optional. It has been required. The battles you endured were never arbitrary. The lessons you were forced to learn were never mistakes. Your spiritual awakening has been deliberate. Every delay, every challenge, every season of waiting was a hand guiding you to mastery. The 144,000 financial shift is merely the external manifestation of what you have already achieved internally. Your soul has already carried the alignment that the world is now beginning to recognize. The chosen one is now called to consolidate authority. Consolidation requires humility, clarity, and vision. It is the process of integrating all that has been learned, all that has been refined, and all that has been positioned, so that movement is stable, deliberate, and aligned with divine law. You will see opportunities arise that test your wisdom, that challenge your boundaries, and that demand discernment. Approach each with the confidence that your preparation has earned. Approach each knowing that God's message has never abandoned you, only hidden what you were not yet ready to steward. As the kingdom wealth transfer continues, you will notice patterns. Favor will appear. Relationships will form naturally. Doors will open without force. This is not luck. This is alignment. This is divine calling unfolding visibly because you have honored it invisibly. Recognition will not confuse you. Abundance will not corrupt you. Authority will not intimidate you. You are prepared, and you are positioned. Every external confirmation is simply an echo of the internal work you have already done. You may feel the weight of this activation. You may sense the responsibility settling on your shoulders. That is correct. It is not a burden. It is a blessing. Every chosen one is entrusted with influence, not because it is desired, but because it is necessary. The world needs your light, your insight, and your ability to steward resources for protection, innovation, and restoration. Your presence at this time is not accidental. Your calling is not hypothetical. Your activation is imminent and real. Circle back to the beginning of this truth. You are the chosen one. You are not imagining this. You were called. The war is real. Your light is necessary. Your preparation has been deliberate. Your discernment is now activated. Your authority is ready. Do not wait for permission from the world. Do not seek validation outside of your alignment. The confirmation comes internally from obedience, wisdom, and the recognition of your divine calling. If this touched your soul, if your spirit recognizes the truth of what has been spoken, comment 111. Not as a statement to the world, but as a declaration to your spirit. You were called, you are ready, and you are fully aligned with the 144,000 financial shift and the kingdom wealth transfer unfolding in your life. Stand now in full awareness. Step fully into your authority. Embrace the shift with clarity, peace, and power. You are the chosen one. You are aligned. You are activated. This is your moment, your time, your calling. Your light is required, your wealth is assigned, and your authority is undeniable. Step into it with confidence. Step into it with wisdom. Step into it with faith. The world has been waiting for the chosen ones to rise, and rise you shall, fully prepared, fully positioned, and fully aligned with God's message. Your activation is complete. Your shift is now. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now. You were called. Conclusion: step into the shift with peace, not pressure. This is a message from God, and it is arriving exactly where it was always meant to arrive. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not catching up. The 144,000 financial shift is not something you are waiting for anymore. It is activating now, quietly, steadily, and precisely. There is no urgency attached to it, because what is divinely timed does not need to be rushed. Peace is the confirmation that alignment has been reached. Pressure belongs to striving. Alignment belongs to trust. You were never forgotten during the waiting seasons. You were being positioned. Every pause, every redirection, every moment that felt like nothing was happening was actually shaping you internally for what could not arrive until you were ready. Chosen ones are not rushed into purpose. They are anchored into it. Divine alignment works beneath the surface first, strengthening foundation before manifestation. That is why comparison never served you. Other paths were never meant to look like yours. The chosen one does not need to prove worthiness. Worth was never the issue. Readiness was, and readiness is now evident in the way you move, the way you respond, and the way you no longer react from fear. You are calmer, clearer, more discerning. You trust yourself in ways you once did not. That is not coincidence. That is spiritual awakening reaching maturity. It is the sign that the internal work has aligned with the external assignment. Kingdom wealth transfer exists for purpose, not pressure. It flows to establish stability, to protect what matters, and to build what lasts. You do not need to chase it. Chasing implies absence. Allowing implies alignment. When divine calling is honored internally, provision responds externally. God's systems do not require panic to function. They require obedience and trust. This message from God reached you exactly on time because timing is part of protection. Had it arrived earlier, it would have conflicted with who you were still becoming. Had it arrived later, it would have delayed what is now ready to move. This moment is balanced. You are balanced. That is why clarity feels calm rather than overwhelming. Fear fades when understanding arrives. If you feel aligned with what has been spoken throughout this message, acknowledge it by commenting 777, not as a ritual, not as performance, but as a declaration of readiness and trust. Alignment responds when it is recognized consciously. Recognition strengthens faith. Faith stabilizes movement. Remember this truth and carry it forward. The war was real. The resistance was real. The pressure was real. But so was the preparation. Your light is not optional. It is necessary, and it was preserved intentionally. You were refined so you could stand in influence without losing integrity. You were delayed so you could lead without distortion. Nothing about your journey was wasted. You are stepping into the shift with peace, not pressure, with authority, not urgency, with clarity, not confusion. That is how you know it is real. That is how you know this was always divinely orchestrated. If this touched your soul, comment 111, because you know it now, without hesitation or doubt. You were called.